Alright, and now we actually have Tropical Storm Josephine. Finally, it just has formed as of the 11 a.m. update. This video is recorded at 11:10, so this is 10 minutes after the update. But we now have Tropical Storm Josephine, which has just formed. I actually really did not think they would go ahead and name this just because of how it's been looking. But they went ahead and named this system Tropical Storm Josephine. Now the earliest named J storm, beating Hurricane or Tropical Storm Jose on, I think it was August 22nd. So beating it by 9 days for the record of the earliest J named storm. So we're really, really advancing with this. Winds of 45 mile per hour, believe it or not. Even though, I wouldn't have named it higher than 40 mile per hour, but that's that. Pressure went down to 1,005 millibars, and it's now moving west-northwest at 50 mile per hour. So it is starting to take that slight turn a little bit more to the north instead of going pretty much due west. So it is starting to take that slight turn as we were expecting from this system. Other than that, no other disturbances in the Atlantic right now. Here's a look at the current track, and it's expected to stay as a 60 mile per hour system here as it moves north or northeast of the Leeward Islands, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. But they do expect this to become a 60 mile per hour system. And those three storms here, it's expected to strengthen to 40, then 60, and then back down to 45 and 40 here, and then weakening back to a tropical depression at the end of the cone. To be honest, I don't really agree with this. I do think it will re-strengthen as a tropical storm when they do start expanding this cone out. I do think here it will become a tropical storm once again as the conditions are very favorable. This square right here has very, very favorable conditions, but it will very likely to weaken in this general area here as it gets into unfavorable conditions. But they're still expecting a peak of 60 mile per hour, and a hurricane peak is not out of the question, but a little bit unlikely. So we'll see if it is able to how much is able to maintain its intensity. So here's how it's been moving, and we can clearly see that it's really taken that shift in direction. It's really now moving a whole lot more northwest, where contrary to earlier today, it was moving pretty much due west earlier on the track. So now it's taking that turn. It does have a wind field again. It is a one-sided storm still. It's quite small system we have going on with this. Here's a look at the latest satellite imagery, and that is part of the reason they went ahead and named it a tropical storm because we've had persistent convection for at least the last 4 to 5 hours. Especially in those later frames, you can really see this convection really persisting, which we're not seeing earlier when we would get a blow up with convection and it would just completely fall apart afterwards. Here we've seen consistent convections around the center being right off the edge somewhere around here. So they've also noted a feeder band from the system, which also helps name this tropical storm with nice outflow from the system. And inflow. So we've seen a lot more organization too. Also, the Ascat Pass finding tropical storm force winds. So that's why they went ahead and named this Tropical Storm Josephine here, which is just a big blob of convection. But we do have very, very strong convection here. And it's gotten out of the sheet and the dry air because it was in a little bit of an unfavorable conditions earlier today. But now it's getting into a much more favorable, and it's going to stay. It's going to possibly continue to strengthen for at least the next 2 days, even less for that, at least 1 day and a half before it gets really in those unfavorable conditions. Here's the latest model tracks from the models, and we've been seeing trends, and now pretty much the consensus of the models do make this have a turn to out to sea. At one point, we were seeing a trend where most models were now taking it into near the Bahamas, and now we're really seeing pretty much every single models do take this out to sea. And I do agree with that. Now at this point, looks like it's going to be going around that ridge or high pressure right around there, and it does actually have the chance to loop around. So we'll see if that happens or not. A couple models were showing this earlier where it could loop around. And, I do still see the possibility for that to happen. It's possible, but only now it looks like only two or three models show it heading towards the Bahamas or the U.S. And again, it can still change. I remember if you said yes. One point it was supposed to go out to sea, then it was supposed to go in the Gulf, and then it was supposed to completely miss Florida. So it can change so much. But right now, it does look like this is one of the more likely solution where this is going to go out to sea. Here's a look at some more models here, right here from this. A very similar story where pretty much every single model does turn this out to sea, except it looks like maybe two or three models take it towards Bahamas, Florida potentially, but other than that, pretty much every single models do take it out to sea. So we'll see if that trend continues in the next couple of days. Oh, I think I need to refresh this. It's not up to date. Yep, here we go. I think this might be a little bit more up to date. Let's see here. So yeah, we'll see if this continues. As you can see here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 models that take it towards Bahamas and potentially Florida, with the rest of the models do take it out to sea. Here's again the GEPS model, which is all the GFS. And like I was saying, we do have this potentially curve, do a loop like this, because now with the GFS model, we can see a lot of models. A lot of models do start to turn it around like this, and I don't rule out the possibility for this to actually curve around a little bit, like we saw with Final Storm in 2004, where it actually curved around like this. GFS does show a very weak storm with this, but nonetheless, I think there's a little bit of a trend. Even you can see at the end of this where it does start to put just maybe just that slight chance where it just kind of loops around like this. That very very slight chance where we see this looping. I'm not saying it could happen. Maybe it's just gonna go like this and go back out. But with what it's looking, even with those models here, they don't show it curve, and with the high pressure over there, I don't really see where it could go. It's other than kind of curving back out. Otherwise, it's really gonna have to go a lot more like this and not curve like some models are showing it like that. So we're gonna have to see. But I think otherwise, we're really gonna have to see this go more like this or like that than curving like some of the models show this, where it starts to curve like this. That is, and then this in potentially of a loop, which I wouldn't rule out the possibility for. We've seen this with Jose in 2017, so we'll see if that happens or not. But there's definitely the possibility. Here's a little bit of a look of the intensity model for the system, and we can see they've shifted up to adjust with this new finding of 45 mile per hour winds. Only model that shows a weakening right now is a UKX2, which actually shows it weakening significantly back and then strengthening back in the next 72 hours. Very unlikely, but other than that, what else? So most models show strengthening for the next 36 hours, with a drop off after that, and then potentially a re-strengthening at hour, around 84 to 96, where it could maybe re-strengthen, which is what I was talking about. Because as you've seen, the National Hurricane Center brings it back to tropical depression status, and I wonder if it potentially could re-strengthen after that back to tropical storm status, like the Cody, a couple models here start to potentially bring it back up. So we'll see if that happens. But if I had to put my model in this, I would only bring it up to like maybe this much, and then weaken it downwards, and then potentially re-strengthening it quite significantly. So we'll see if that happens or not, but I do see this re-strengthening afterwards. So we'll see. Here's a look at the latest wind shear map, and you can see where it's currently located right here, and it's about to enter some unfavorable wind shear, but maybe, just maybe, it's starting to split apart a little bit. So maybe, just maybe, it is able to pass just in a little hole of favorable, well, neutral wind shear. So we'll see if that it is able to pass in. Maybe it's moving in this direction. So maybe we get the wind shear slowing down here as well, and it is able to pass in a little hole of neutral to maybe favorable wind shear, but most likely neutral wind shear. Because earlier we were seeing this entire area with 40 knots of wind shear, and now uh, we only have 20 knots of wind shear here, and then we have 40 knots on either side, even 50 knots in some areas. So we'll see if it's able to still keep its intensity as it moves in this wind shear, or if it weakens more. But uh, National Hurricane Center does think it will continue to strengthen even in this unfavorable conditions, even to 60 mile per hour. And I still don't know why, but they actually have it weakening to tropical depression, like all the way up there, where we have this much more unfavorable conditions there. So we'll see again how that does play out. But with how much it's been struggling, maybe it won't really be able to keep its intensity for too long. Here's a look at the drier map here, and it's another issue. We have not only the wind shear, but the dry air. And right now, I can see that it's pushing out the dry air with that moisture bubble around it. Um, so, we're going to have to see, but dry air, we have this big band of dry air right in front of the system here, extending all the way into the Caribbean here. So we'll see if it also is able to push out all this dry air out, or if it's or if we have wind shear plus dry air, if the dry air is not going to just insert into the system and completely kill the entire thing. So that's really something we're going to have to keep attention to. But when it gets, around here and we get all this wind shear and dry air mixed together, there's a high chance it could completely fall apart, which we've seen with a couple models showing this completely becoming an open wave after a couple, days. So we're really going to have to pay attention. But if it is able to keep a nice moisture bubble and strong convection over the center, we could see this be able to survive all the way towards this curve and potential loop towards the north. As we could potentially be seeing this do. Maybe something like this is not out of the question yet. So we're going to have to see. And we also have a couple tropical waves back there, but nothing really expected. Let's have a look quickly at the foreskin models, like the GFS and the Euro, just to kind of see what they're predicting for the system right here. Let's first have a look at the GFS. So GFS, it does show a very weak system, like I've said before. And again, it does show it opening back to a tropical wave here, like I was saying, as it gets over those very unfavorable conditions. So that's why we do have the possibility for this. And we also have a cold front here that could push it out rather quickly towards the north. So that's another possibility for this to really die out completely with this cold front, But then again, if we look at the trace of this storm, here it is right here. We do see this looping around like this. So that's really interesting. It might be dead by then, but we do have this high pressure here again, which is going to be pushing the system. So we'll see. But I do see this potentially just maybe, because then the high pressure actually moves over there, which means it would be able. We had the high pressure here, which pushed it out to sea, right? It took it here, but then the high pressure moves over there, and so now it's finding itself turning back down because we have the high pressure here pushing it back down like this. So it's just a little bit of a complicated situation, but there is that possibility. But will it be dissipated by then? Possibly. So that is something we have to keep in mind. Euro model, again, not too much with this system. It does show it going back to an open wave there. So lots of models show it really weakening as it gets near the Virgin Islands. And it looks like really it's still going to be the trend. CMC actually shows it not weakening too much, but strengthening. And what did I tell you? CMC, I swear this could do this. CMC shows it looping. CMC shows it doing this and looping around. I know you guys might think it's crazy, but I really think if it is able to hold itself, it could really loop around back towards the US or back out to sea like this. But with the new trends we're seeing, I could really see this do something like that and maybe have a run for the Carolinas, if not Florida, as we've seen with that. I believe there was one storm in 2004 that looped like this and went into Florida. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. Don't freak out or anything, but there's really been a trend toward a storm looping like this with how the high pressures are going to be setting up. So we really have to pay attention for that. Uh, I know not a lot of people have been talking about this. Here's the Navigem model. Again, taking it out to sea. It doesn't show it looping quite yet, but it does take it out to sea like pretty much every single model. It does take it out to sea like that. And if it does like the other model, it would then turn it back around like this. So it's a very big possibility, and I do really want to keep that idea on the table, um, for potential impacts, but it's still a little bit unlikely. Here's the icon model. Really hasn't been showing a lot with this system, but icon does show it kind of weakening, and then again take that turn. We'll see when it renders, but every single model should take that turn, and then they kind of stay around like this. So I want to see really what if they turn it or not, because that is really going to be something we have to pay attention to. Really quickly, the GMA doesn't show anything. Let's really quickly look at the HWRF model, just quickly for some guidance with this. So it does show this, being a tropical storm. Where is it here? Near the Leeward Islands, and then it goes towards the north, and then kind of renders there. So we'll see how it ends up playing out, but I'm not ruling out the possibility for this, really for this to go like I'm saying. It's just going to depend on how those high pressure are set up, really, because, if it goes this way, it starts turning because we have this high pressure or ridge here. So this high pressure ridge here, it does shoot it towards the north, right? So this system here, it starts turning towards the north, but then this high pressure here, it actually starts to move, or it dies out and we have a new one or some kind of ridge here forming. So then what this has to do, because this pushes it back this, okay? So what this finds itself doing is back like that, So potential predictions, not saying it's going to happen, but potentially just maybe, with those high pressures, just maybe. So just something to keep in mind of, because this would, push it back down, because this high pressure would push it up, but then the other one would push it back down. But there's still the possibility that it just shoots out, and it depends if one high pressure dies out and the other one becomes stronger, then this would happen. But if the two high pressures stay about the same, we could see they're just shooting out. So, we're gonna have to see, and it's really gonna be interesting.